this one doesn't have to be overly practical, but kind of a fun one. If you could improve any aspect of the advanced process with technology, what would you do?
This is actually one of the reasons I started working with Lend was guest list. Always my Achilles heel day of, because that kind of thing always changes and you're working live with box office, who, is using their own platforms or systems or whatever it is. So that's an area that I think I need help in and has definitely been nice to use technology for.
And Mark and Anna, anything, and obviously I'm not looking for a softball for Lend. It can be anything. But thank you,
Alex. I would say the same thing. I mean, we used Lend actually at one of our events in Chicago, and it was a lifesaver just because with the guest list was constantly changing and people would come up and go, hey, I got 3 other people I got to bring in, and just getting it into the system. I think kind of what I just mentioned before, having that one-stop portal where we can just grab all that information and it makes it easier for the communication going back and forth. And I think the other part of it too is what information needs to be accessible to what parts of the teams. Because I think in a lot of us, in most cases, some of these festivals, events, I'm dealing with 10 to 15 different teams, whether it's PR, marketing, catering, security, and things along those lines. And they don't all need to see the same grid that I'm using in Google Docs. So I think having that kind of information that could go to different people is ideal.
Cool. And there actually was a question that came in around the operations, but I'm curious, Anna, what are your thoughts on AR advancing production needs over directly advancing with the production manager or stage manager, or does that change depending on the show?
It definitely changes depending on the show, but I like working with my production manager and being able to create the advance together, especially if you've done a show for many years and you're like in a groove. They can upload their information. They can upload anything about backline and lighting specs and anything that they want, and that information will be in that initial advance. And then when they go through, the production manager goes through and fills out this information, we're able to kind of separate out the production info from the rest of the stuff that even the stage managers don't want to be concerned with. And they have their own grid that they can always reference back to, but it's still coming from that one same point of reference. I really like that. I think that it's good. It's good for my team to know, that information that we agreed upon as well and what was talked about in the advance, even if the stage manager had a side conversation with the production manager, we're getting like the basis of it, the bones.
Cool. And Aaron, any, I know there's been some kind of questions coming through. Anything I didn't cover in some of this?
One piece, and is just where COVID has kind of played into all of this, and if there's been any things that you've added to the process or how you've approached that in the advance.
Any thoughts there? Why don't we start with Mark? Why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so we had our Complex Con Festival this past November in Long Beach, and that was the very first event that I worked on where we had to have COVID restrictions, especially with the California mandates that were happening. So all the communication that we had to put out there was you either had to be vaccinated or you had to test negative. We did have a full system in place where everybody that was coming into the building had to be checked, no matter who they were. And we did have testing on site if needed. We did have a few cases where either talent or their entourage had to not come into the building for that because we were very, very strict about it. And it was a very challenging case for sure. In some cases, some of the bigger names, we had to figure out different solutions for them. So it's just, we communicated it, we over communicated it way ahead of the event. We even asked it as we were advancing them, going, is this going to be an issue? If it is, do we need to know now so that we can, find another solution or not have you come to the event?
So how much are you guys keeping that separate from the advance, a part of the advance, a complement to the advance? Where is that complement? Anna, Alex?
I would say compliment. I try and include it with it. A few of the festivals that I've done, we've had like a waiver that we've asked the artist teams to sign, and then also have those available at check-in in order to get their credentials, and then have that proof in order to get wristbanded. I worked on the artist relations team for a festival that had zones based on where you were performing, what your level of performing, what time you were performing, to just try and mitigate exposure and how many people were crossing paths in a backstage area. And then if you're not vaccinated, where can you go? Can you go in at all? And just communicating that as much as possible ahead of time. Got
it. And were you the point of contact for some of that communication, or is it somebody else in the events that you worked on?
I have been the point of contact, but at the direction of either the medical director or festival director, whoever it was that kind of set those boundaries, and then just more making sure that they were followed through with, or, if there were any conflicts, then kind of bringing those to the right people.
Got it. Is that about the same, Anna, for you?
I've just been so grateful that for 2021 and 2022, as we're entering into this, that we have COVID compliance officers. There's such a wealth of information. People have turned, switched gears from their career, original path and kind of taken this on. And I'm so grateful because, I have separate questions. And not only are we trying to relay our policies about COVID to the artist teams, we need to adhere by their policies as well. I'm receiving their tour rules also. I need to let our teams know about those, and we need to abide by those as much as they need to abide by ours. So having COVID compliance officers has been so wonderful, just a point of contact. And like Alex said, a medical director as well, just someone that, so if someone needs to be tested separately, or we have to make, some different things happen for them, we have someone to talk to about it. We have access to tests, and all of that is filtering through like one other communication person that knows way more about it than I do. Super
and I think part of it too is not just letting them know what we need from them, kind of like you said, knowing what they want, but also what we're doing internally. So like what steps our staff are required to take in order for that, what the patrons are required to have, and what's available, resources are available with that.
I hope we're not having this conversation next year at this time. But, and I do see 2022 feeling like a light at the end of the tunnel, like a little bit looser on things. So we'll see, but I think keeping what we've already started to put into place in 2021 and moving forward that way, like over communicating can never be a bad thing. And just having a backup plan and then having your policies in place is like super important, no matter what your event is, no matter how big.